two teams as each team plays 4 times. This is the second match.
And I will mention right off the bat that X Special has a Relic Shield
Dun, dun,
right off the bat. So he will be sharing some farm with Wild Turtle. And if at some point we say Wild Turtle is down in farm to Cop,
man,
we're probably wrong because the Relic Shield is shared CS. And oftentimes it is overlooked.
Worth. We
We're not going to do that.
We said we're wrong,
We're going to
so
do it
now
right
it's
this
okay.
time.
Yeah.
We're going to get this right.
There's no Adoration stacks, no Nasus stacks. We got everything.
But the most interesting thing about the shared CS thing is just because of the Relic Shield, even when you add them both up and get an equal number, that means TSM's winning by even more because the shared gold that he gives back to the AD carry
it's like
is just bonus.
Some.
Just money out of nowhere.
And a bag of chips.
Making money.
Wow. Dyrus is pretty BM here. Usually they kind of sit and dance it off in the brush, but he pushes Quas out right away. He definitely wants all of that lane.
Control.
Yeah. Cleaver control is max control in the top lane. Dominate, hugging the brush. Not going to see anything cheeky like we did from EG last time, which was pretty nice. But we see both teams kind of going back to just laying low.
Yeah. Maybe a delayed invade. But I really want to see what happens in the mid lane between Voyboy and Bjergsen right now, because Voyboy should theoretically be very strong early on in the game before Bjergsen gets access to his cat form, which may leave him open, well, Cougar form, may leave him open to odd one ganks very early. I think that's going to be the big threat. Voyboy loves to play extremely aggressive. Nidalee needs to play passive early. That's why you see the barrier on Bjergsen's Nidalee, and it's going to be a big thing actually for TSM early on in the game, because if you look at both their top lane and their mid lanes, their main goals right off the bat are just to survive and keep their farm even, which will give Curse a lot of freedom if you're considering both of their solo lanes are pushed up very hard. It actually means that I Will Dominate can think about counter jungling, even though Wukong isn't a strong counter jungler, but it definitely enables him to gank bottom lane freely.
See what he prioritizes here as they get themselves through the jungle. Looks like Wraith and Wolfcamp are going to be the deciders to get themselves to level 3 as they get to their red camps. 2.5 minutes on the clock so far. We'll see what Voyboy decides to do in this lane if he can get a little bit of roam on. Whether he levels Q and just beats Bjergsen down or levels that E and keeps pushing this wave.
See almost all Kales nowadays just max the Q.
Max on the Q.
It's a huge amount of burst damage. It's on an incredibly ridiculous AP ratio. 1-0. Cop doing the stutter step. Hey, that's actually an advanced form of last hitting. You just cancel until the very last moment where you want a last hit, or you're risky and you do the double shot on it.
Get the ultimate freeze. See what they can do. Wild Turtle isn't really looking to get too much harass in here. He doesn't want to get bullied out by a few of the passive shots. But he'll use a Peacemaker to say, hey, get this wave out of here a little bit.
Yeah, and I really like watching the really good Caitlyn players like Wild Turtle when they play, because at least when they're, we'll see this later in the game, when they're trying to push, they don't waste any time. There's so many kind of long animations on Caitlyn, like when she shoots her Q. You'll see good Caitlyn players always use it right after an auto attack or right after their E, because they can cancel the animations and save time with what they're doing. Likewise, if Wild Turtle ever places a trap, it'll be right after an auto attack, because then he saves time and it's not actually costing them the time of W. It's an efficient play that comes after hundreds and hundreds of games on Caitlyn that we see these pro-tier Caitlyn players do.
Well, he definitely has enough solo Q in him to get those mechanics out. Always playing, always training. Some of, I believe, the most accounts in Challenger, if that has been beaten recently. Haven't been able to check. 4 minutes indeed. The gank comes out. The red buff is on. It's just going to be the heal and the lane harass for now.
And Voyboy actually ends up taking more from that one. Bjergsen was far enough back. The positioning of the lane was good for a gank, but there were too many minions that Voyboy was stuck trying to last hit. He didn't want to have full support of a gank that wasn't going to get any kill generated. So actually not the best movement there by I Will Dominate.
He sticks around Wraith. They may try to go back towards mid again. We see the odd one backing. We may see him into the lane quite soon as the buff's about 3/4 of the way done.
Yeah, I Will Dominate is trying a lot of pre-6 ganks on Wukong, which aren't necessarily that successful. Great ward timing by TSM.
Oh, St. Vicious grabs aggro in the bush. He gets all that he needs here. They're going to get a nice attack onto his special, and they force the flash.
Because of the nice hook there by St. Vicious, they were able to burn the flash, and it's not an inefficient gank by I Will Dominate. But the ward was really well timed by X-Special. He just couldn't dodge the hook on the way back to the lane. All in all, though, this early game is kind of expectedly slow. because TSM has picked two very passive solo laners, and then they're playing their bot lane passively as well, because Lucian Thresh has so much inherent threat. The only thing to track in this one is if TSM is up in farm, they're actually winning by a lot. Because they're in passive lanes, if they're out farming, it's a fantastic job.
See that Quaz is not having the same time as Nien did, at least in the early part. He is not able to kill Mundo 1v1. And Dyrus is getting the upper hand there, showing his strength in the top lane. He backs Dyrus, not even going to use teleport to get back to the lane because he's pushed it so well.
Yeah, it's very surprising that he's up 39-30. Obviously, it's a little bit because of the push lane, but Quas doesn't have many minions left up there. Really, the lanes so far from Curse haven't been pressuring that much, and I Will Dominate hasn't been farming spectacularly either, just on the cusp of hitting level 5. Nothing going too well for Curse. I'd say a very solid early game so far by Team SoloMid.
A lot of vision being picked up here by Curse that has been put down at least by the Wraiths, and just on the bottom side of Nidalee as well. They want to make sure that Odd One is not in the back pocket of Bjergsen if they try to go for him.
Yeah, absolutely right there. You can see Nidalee now that she's level 6, even harder to gank, knowing there's barrier flash and the constant jump-aways.
There's those wards coming into play.
People often underestimate as well how much damage Nidalee can do in Cougar format level 6 because they see her as a super long-range, fragile poke champion, but her upfront damage is actually quite lethal.
They choose not to go for much there. Oh, Odd One level 5, that is why. So they just kind of walk out of this. Go ahead and get the lane pushed out, and this is going to be a back from Bjergsen here. He's out of mana. He's out of a lot.
He's definitely just going back to shop. Got enough gold for an extra Doran's, Chalice of Harmony, and a ward. So he is just going to continue to try and farm that lane. And really, Curse is going to want to make something happen, but they do have to wait for I Will Dominate to hit level 6 before they really start creating any type of action. This is one of those games where the jungle invades will be quite important.
No way! Wow, a game of cat and mouse ultimately played right here. The Odd One was half a second away from seeing this come down. First blood of the Ignite goes to Boy. Quas wanted a piece of that one.
Yeah, that's the move they had to make. They wanted to wait until they could evade an objective. Think about how TSM was playing passively in both of those solo lanes. That leaves your jungler open to being counter-jungled. Counter-jungling is a team game. That's why all of Curse was in there. The timing of the vision around the red buff was ridiculous as well. But they generate the kill, they steal the red buff, and it gives themselves their first advantage of the game.
That's what it's about, having the timers
now they want to go for the other
of your opponent to knock them down and lock them down. 8 minutes into this game, Curse looks to do more.
This is the one that's a little dangerous, though, because Dyrus could potentially teleport down and force a 5v4, knowing that Quas is not walking that way. Let's see if they can get in and out with this one, because they're in a lot of danger.
Well, Dyrus is in the top lane alone. Quas has no way to break that teleport if he wants to get down. He is trying to teleport far behind them. He's going to come in with Turtle, and they jump onto Turtle. They're going to find a Dyrus, though. Dyrus is in. Dominate flashes out with Cyclone in the fight. Boy is left to his own divide, and a beautiful teleport down to gain control of the fighting dragon.
Yeah, that is one of those not worth invades right there by Curse. TSM just reacted to what Curse was trying to do. 5v4, gets a kill, and a dragon.
Dyrus holding that teleport in the top lane, pays off. Coming in now, first dragon going in here at 9 minutes. A little bit of a gold lead obviously is going to come from that, and Quas is going to do his damnedest to get as much damage on this top turret now.
Yeah, we just got to take a look at this again. It wasn't really a fair fight. TSM flanked around them very well. Once Curse ran into Mundo, they realized how bad of a situation they were in. The instant flash away from I Will Dominate. It's just every man for himself at that point. It ends up being Boy that gets the short straw. He's the one that ends up getting shot down.
Turtle's just like, pull, got him. Pulls out the ace in the hole, doesn't get the kill for himself. That goes over to Boy. Or Boy had a kill, I should say. It does go to Turtle. I was looking at the wrong inventory. We're all right.
It's 1-1.
It is 1-1. 9.5 minutes on this one, and it's 71 CS. It's Bjergsen in the mid lane. So even though he's being pressured into his turret, he's been able to get back in and pounce on these minions now. Trying to do the same, give Boy a little bit of his own medicine.
Yeah, also, while we were showing that replay, there was a blue buff storm. That's how Bjergsen got his hands on that one. So not only did the counter jungle fail for Curse, they ended up losing both blues.
Oh, Burger King getting it his way. It's going to be lasting quite a while from him with the Chalice and the Doran's Ring. He's going to be nicely poking out Boy in the mid lane with those spears when he gets the chance. You can see him quickly in and out of Cougar form here to make sure he can get away if necessary. 7 to 8 in that mid lane. And looking at the bottom lane a little bit, which we have not. St. Vicious and Xpecial were kind of our match of the day as Bjergsen and Voyboy duke it out. And they're both doing pretty well. We got the Xpecial assist so far, but Saint has been trying to capitalize on these moves. Always has aggression in the brush, and it looks like they may get a kill. Cop dashes out of the damage a bit there from Dominate. Great job.
All right, face full of Caitlyn right there. They're still going for him. Turtle fighting.
They're gonna be out. They're gonna be out.
A bunch. They were able to finish off Xpecial in that one. We can see the farm though. Those 18 farm that Xpecial has are actually back towards Wild Turtle, so they are winning that lane just by a little bit. The gold will push them over the top. But again, a good gank by I Will Dominate. That's the level 6 Wukong threat. Even through all of Xpecial's armor from that Leona W, they were still able to finish him off.
Seeing what Bjergsen can do here. Odd one coming in from the side. It's going to be the Vault Breaker. Full charge into Assault and Battery. It looks like the low mana, Voyboy did have enough for that intervention.
Yeah, just enough. That thing costs 100 mana. He was running himself a little dangerously low there. Now we need some lane cover by I Will Dominate.
They're going to run this turret dangerously low. Dominate, like you said, coming to protect. Looking at Cop. Actually, yeah, the mid turret, or top turret rather, not being taken down. Cop buying up the Cutlass to start out on Lucian.
That's a interesting choice. We're probably going to see a Blade of the Ruined King Trinity Force eventually from him.
Right.
It's very interesting that he wanted to finish his Cutlass so early, though. Just a little bit of an upgrade over the regular Vamp Scepter we would see. Not your standard build-up there for Cop. I'd say he's maybe trying to peel a little better. If Dyrus gets on top of him, he could use the Cutlass for a bit of a slow on him.
Right.
Other than that, unless he's finishing his Blade of the Ruined King right after his Phage, odd move.
The ultimates, odd one so far, have been going for Voyboy. So like you said, Cop is probably going to need some peel because Voyboy ults have just turned into intervention so far, and he's been safe throughout all of that engagement. 13 minutes, coming up on 13 minutes, there has been quite a bit of focus on the mid lane, and that's kind of how we see Team SoloMid playing, is jungler helps Odd One helps Bjergsen tilt the mid lane in their favor, and then they run from there. But like we said, he's not on that LeBlanc. Yeah. He's not on a super kill champion this time.
It's not necessarily what he would do with Nidalee. So at this point, Odd One's just capitalized on a few invades. Plus, Odd One's been in the difficult situation of having passive laners this time, and his jungler getting invaded by the enemy solo lanes. As Voyboy gets another deep ward. Maybe they can collapse on him this time, though. Hits the spear, maybe an ult too.
Oh, he got dead. Big wings. Oh, the wingspan. Can he get him out? He's flapping as hard as he can. It's going to be Voyboy going down. Bjergsen coming up with a kill for himself.
Yep, that was a solo mission by Voyboy that he should not have partaken in because he had no support. I Will Dominate was in his own jungle. That ward was theoretically supposed to protect him from the very thing that killed him.
Deja vu for Dominate. Back to the mid lane just to clean up farm that's crashing into this turret.
Yeah, it's not the worst person to get farm to, though.
That's true.
Jungle
in the end,
Wukong,
best of a worst.
Yeah, absolutely. Jungle Wukong can be very, very potent once he gets a little bit of farm, as long as I Will Dominate is willing to go all the way in. And he is. He's a very aggressive player.
Pretty aggressive on those wolves. That's mean. Dominate's going to be moving out. Back to the mid lane. He just wants more farm. He does have 68. We've seen him get a better clip here now than the Odd One, as he's been trying to focus a few assault and batteries to come in and help the team. Bjergsen transfer blue buff over to him. That'll be quite nice, as he's just going to stay in that mid lane and try to keep Voyboy from roaming around.
And also just now, at 14 minutes, Curse is clearing out their blue buff that had been stolen away. That's going to definitely hurt Voyboy in the mid lane and his chances. You can see Bjergsen already getting quite far ahead of him in farm, knowing that he has blue buff control and that Athene's Unholy Grail versus Voyboy, who has none of those luxuries.
Should do all right for now. Got the Fiendish Codex for himself and that mana ring. He's going to have the cooldowns. Hopefully he doesn't deplete the mana too quick, because he's definitely going to have some trouble just keeping those farm or waves off of the turret.
Yeah, Voyboy's build is definitely delayed a little bit. He's going to want to get to that Nashor's Tooth and Lichbane as quickly as possible, but he is very much gold star right here. Tough start for Voyboy. Great timing on the Dragon by TSM as well. Everyone on Curse is back in the base. If they get this down early, they get it uncontested.
That first move from Dyrus down into the bottom lane has, the teleport I should say, has Curse shook, and it's leading to dragons now. Team SoloMid is starting to control the lanes a lot more.
Yeah, perfect timing. Their early laning phase is starting to get out of there. Yeah. And remember, we talked if TSM came out of the laning phase with their solo lanes being up and farm, they were winning by a lot. even if it was even, they were winning.
Yep.
But it's actually Bjergsen up by 25, Dyrus only down by 10 against Quas's Shyvana, and that bottom lane,
the Targon's is there, so
take the Targons is dead even, plus the extra gold that X Special will have gotten. So good stuff.
Quas bullying through the top lane, doesn't let Dyrus push him off this time, so they get a little gold there for themselves. That's the first turret that's dropped in the game. It's been pretty champion focused so far. This is getting good. Odd one. It's just creeping on the side. This isn't going to be able to be countered by Wukong here, so we'll see if Curse, Cop, and St. Vicious can do enough as two.
It's a dangerous place for them to be right now. Bloodthirster is completed by Wild Turtle, whereas Cop is just still building components of items.
So patient.
Odd one, forever patient. He's built a Brutalizer this game as well, which is something we've been seeing a lot more of from junglers. We'll often see the Brutalizer comboed with a Spirit of the Elder Lizard item, because it's just a whole bunch of damage, and a lot of junglers can just take over the mid game with that. Oh dear, those are a lot of spears. There's actually Bjergsen who tweeted last night, I think he had a bit of solo queue frustration. He said, jungle's the best role in solo queue. Just build Lizard Elder and Brutalizer and take over. Said something like, I'm a little salty right now. So that's what Dominate wants to be able to do. He just hasn't been getting enough farmed on Wukong right now, and Bjergsen's at a point where he's farmed so much that he can really start pushing Void out of the lane and never be in those 2v2 situations.
And the odd one actually chose to go Golem for himself. We saw a lot of European play seeing the Lizard as well, going on to Vi players. So he chooses to be a bit of a tank for the team too. Get that crowd control in early. Nasher's finally finished up, as we were saying, on Void, but still a bit gold starved in that lane.
Oh yeah, way, way behind right there. 1,000 gold fully. The team is only down about 2,000, so most of that deficit is sitting on Void. Kale obviously scales tremendously if he can get to the late game, but that's not going to be until 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes at the rate we're going right now.
Heck yeah, there is still playmaking to be had in this game. The champions will provide for it, coming from both teams. We're going to see that Phage and the Sheen being picked up here by Cop in the bottom lane, so it does look like he's actually going to build up that Triforce quite quick. Quas and Dyrus in the top lane, back and forth. Still just going for the wet noodle fight here.
Here the turret was taken by Quas, so Dyrus can only hold it for so long. Here comes Dominate. Lantern gank!
Oh, but it doesn't use the Lantern. They just go for the Cyclone, but cannot get through. Very nice job coming in. The Solar Flare is still up to be used in this fight. Are they even going to need it here? Odd one looking pretty scared in this 3v1 situation.
Bjergsen is on the way.
Special looks to get out. Oh, Bjergsen with one from the side, and that is going to deter the rest of this one.
Even so, great gank there by Curse. Lantern, Wukong, surprise attack. And at that point, Bjergsen used so much time to roam down just to save the odd one that it actually allows Void a little bit of pushing time in this mid lane. Might look to punish.
Not as much damage as he was probably hoping that came out of that.
Yeah, needs a few more items there.
It shows you just how he's behind a little, so how little he is behind. Coming up on 18 minutes, they finally get aggression in this bottom lane. Curse is going to drop the second turret of the game, but now they're going to group. We'll see how coming out of this laning phase does for them.
Yeah, it took 18 minutes of TSM playing back in their lanes for Curse to start getting something back. Being up 2 turrets to 0 now, we'll see if this increased map pressure can make up for the fact that they haven't been farming that well, and maybe give them some of that gold back.
Bjergsen knows he has a bit of the upper hand here. 13 to 11, Void out of mana. He knows he can take advantage of that.
Blue buff experience, the fact that he's just out-farming him so much, and Void desperately needs that Lich Bane at this point. He's still only sitting on 1,000 gold. He couldn't even go back and buy Sheen at this point. Void is getting starved hard right now.
And although it being Nidalee, you get that passive movement speed and the brush, Bjergsen has skipped boots completely throughout the game, knowing he also has such an advantage there.
Yeah, he can jump around a little bit on Nidalee. I like the fact that he's built Void Staff early.
Yeah.
Actually, you don't see that build out of mid laners often, but Void Staff is one of the strongest items any AP champion could just hope to build. Let's check out actually what runes he would have grabbed as well. Stacking Magic Penetration. It has actually not too much flat Magic Penetration, but the percentage will still be 39% when you factor in his masteries.
Completely having an impact in these fights. Looking down at our support matchup for the day, we do see they're going for the coin on St. Vicious, trying to get that Talisman of Ascension built up. It's not too much the engagement here from TSM. They're not really coin-oriented right now. They have the poke comp to work with.
Yeah.
Bjergsen still trying to get to that point where they can get to these turrets and really start harassing down Curse from long range.
And St. Vitus has also just built that. He spent almost all the early game sitting on a Dorn shield, which theoretically should try and give them a bit of a bully advantage over TSM's bottom lane, because X Special started with the gold generation item. And at this point in the game, the Targon's Brace has given TSM 920 gold. That's how much that item by itself has generated. Very, very big play, the fact that Curse wasn't able to beat up on X Special starting with gold generation. It's giving them a generous gold lead.
Teleport is up, and there are a heck of a lot of wards down here. Saint doing what he can with the only sweeper on his team right now. TSM looking around with 2 sweepers, and Dyrus starting to roam a little bit here. You might not even have to teleport.
Yeah, there's been a lot of big items just completed for Curse, though. If they want to fight to get back into this game, it would be this one. The Sheen was finished by Voyboy. Trinity Force even completed. There's a Blade of the Ruin King. The Brutalizer we talked about on the junglers. If I Will Dominate can get a clean Wukong ultimate, it would be massive for them. Let's see this fight.
It'd be a very scary fight for Curse to lose. The minion waves are pretty pushed up here in mid for TSM. They go in deep. The Cyclone's going to be hitting good. 2-1 down from each team. Now Dominate getting hit up pretty hard. Bjergsen finds himself a double kill in the fight, and they are going to be pushing Quas out. The flash is in. They're going to keep going for the cleavers. Another kill for Turtle here. They're putting the shells on and going hard.
Yeah, that was just TSM finding the fight for them.
Oh, my lord.
One more, and Bjergsen thinking he might just jump
going deep here. Blue buff is there. The bush right there for him to get the passive movement speed in. He may be able to trickster this. The outplay is not there. Cop bullying him in this lane. He's got some minions for his shield, too, and they're doing their work.
Even so, a huge win there for TSM. That was how Curse was supposed to turn this game around, but the fight was just a complete disaster for them. Watch how St. Vicious missed his hook and then takes a brunt of damage and actually gets the Kayle ult burned on him. Curse needed this Kayle ult for I Will Dominate. Watch how hesitant he is. He stepped on a trap and cannot get off a good Wukong ultimate before getting nearly wiped out by the rest of TSM. At that point, once the front line was no longer a threat for Curse, TSM could just roll through their entire team. It was all because of a sloppy initiation by Curse, a decisive one by TSM, a poor Kayle ultimate, and a steamroll by TSM.
Bjergsen doing what he can to get the kills in, even from the outside, triggering those pounces and spears just at the right time, brings himself up to 303 in that fight, 210 CS. So, I said in the early part of the game, will he be able to get that LeBlanc-style kill play out? Although he's not distortioning on people, he's still making the kills come.
The laning that he's pulled off against Voyboy's Kayle has just been tremendous. Nidalee can be a very good pick against Kayle in the sense that Kayle will basically out all-in most of the laners, but you never get a chance to all-in Nidalee.
He did an all-in right here, 2v1. Now it's going to be a 3v2, but no, 2v2. They take down Odd1 instantly. Dominate still quite low in this engagement. The headshot coming out of the brush while Turtle puts himself right back in for that engage. Xpecial's just kind of zoning here.
Well, teleport behind him.
Oh, Mundo. Dyrus coming in. He says the party still continues. I just came a little late. Voyboy is down to 400 HP, but he walks past Voyboy, knowing the team is going to flash in. The communication is fantastic.
2-4-1 is how TSM turns that one around. Total control right now for TSM. Just got to sit back and realize how well TSM is winning this game right now. Really, after the last Dragon fight, everything going their way.
See Cop getting a little bit of maybe a jut on his mouse. Simple thing is, a hair or anything on your mouse pad is going to make that laser go crazy. So just getting that cleaned out real quick. Don't look at the laser. Don't look at it. It's bad for you. Dangerous. Wow, that was close. We could have needed another sub.
Let's see what he... Curse pulls Zcamp back in.
Zcamp, where are you? So Quas in the top lane doing what he can here on Shyvana this game. Interesting that we figured Dyrus didn't pick that in this one, having the beast of a game he did last time.
Dyrus, I think, is still winning this matchup.
But, of course.
We've gotten to see Shyvana versus Mundo for both games today. In the first one, it was, Nian getting ganked over and over again on Shyvana, but still coming out with a large impact over Inox. And right here, Quas hasn't even really been ganked. He's just been pressuring Dyrus as much as he can. Dyrus has been able to come with clutch teleports, turn things around, and never once really be punished by Quas. Dyrus is up in farm, up in kills. This is not the best performance by Quas. You can definitely tell he has a tendency to want to play the off-brand things. And when he's pushed onto these things that are very much what everyone else plays, he doesn't seem to find too much success.
Yeah, it's usually that Jax that can stay in the top lane. You know, the Shyvana needs to come down, help out at the Dragons a little bit more when Mundo teleports. But when you got that pressure of the Jax, you're like, whoa, my turrets are gone. And yeah, they got Dragon, but we lost 2 tiers of turrets. So those off things work for him. The Karthus ults where he doesn't have to be with the team again, like you're saying. It's really his forte. And it's something that maybe they need to look at with the swaps again. They played it perfectly yesterday. It was great with the Yasuo Gragas and then swapping each other out. So they were facing that magic resistance and then armor in the different lanes. So they have the ideas. They just got to put them into place.
Yeah, and we can actually take another look at the last fight that happened right before the pause while Cobb's Mouse gets looked at, because it was just TSM continually getting ahead in this game. You know, they're able to do extremely well. Obviously, Dyrus 2-0-3, teleporting in behind the team.
Yeah.
As soon as Chris tried to make a little bit of aggression happen, it got turned right around back on them.
When you get shook that quick in the early part of the game, it's hard to keep the communication up. And if it drops a little bit, then everybody starts to get quiet, and it's very chaotic. A vicious cycle starts to happen. Hopefully, it's all on Saint right now. The calls are still coming from him. They said that's the definitive voice they're listening to. So we'll have to see if they can get themselves back into this matchup.
Well, knowing they just got a couple kills, they can just go straight for the Baron. It's a easy call for them at this point. They can burst it down the Baron extremely quickly. Mundo Cleavers accelerating the rate at which they can get this down. Great call by TSM at this moment. They're actually peeling off of it, even though there's no real smite threat up to steal.
Calling from the backside. Cobb not able to do much on that. You can still see people down from that engagement as they are spawning up. We were talking about the Baron goes over to the side of Team SoloMid, and they a lot more gold than they need right now. These next fights are going to be real hard for Curse.
Yeah, Curse definitely playing from way behind, if they weren't playing from behind already. It was a nice peel, actually, by TSM. They were able to grab the kill without actually threatening their securing of the Baron buff. Getting one extra onto St. Vicious. I feel like this could be a fairly quick game from here. TSM played such a long and passive laning phase because they had to, but now their champions are really coming around. I feel like even without the death cap, those Bjergsen Spears, more than half of Void Boy's health.
Those Bjergsen Spears, indeed. Half health right there for Void Boy. He doesn't even have a chance to say anything about it or do anything about it. He must continue to heal himself. His flash is down. Cop's flash. Saint's flash. Everybody's flash is down on that
Dyrus
side.
is just eating the turret. They're not having to wait for the minion wave. Mundo with Baron buff is one of the most absurd things in the game, because not only does Mundo's passive regenerate max health each second, the Baron health regen is based on your max health, and since Mundo has so much max health, he just always gains it. 22 a second right there, just all the time.
Sounds like it's a lot about the health, and Dominate's not really going to matter on that. Tries to fake out the clone. He goes in and he just gets back out. Special right on the outside to help and peel for anybody trying to get to that back line.
Yeah, those spears chunking. And just for context, the HP 5 on Dyrus' character sheet right now is just 219 health every 5 seconds, just because he exists.
It's hard to kill, especially when you're coming from behind. Dyrus, next special, trying to be this front line right now. They have the initiation to get behind a turret. They have that Leona ultimate, but right now they're working the spears. They're just slowly whittling down this turret, and it's going to be the next few shots from Wild Turtle. Curse has to answer, or they have to give it up.
They do not have good options right now. I think if Curse fully initiates, they will lose, and if they do not, they are going to lose their inhibitor. Even more so now. They just have to back up on this one. The thought of a fight is completely out of the question.
You get the chance to do that every few seconds, and it completely zones out the entire team. You're losing people here and there, dropping like flies. They got to go back to the base. The home guard's being purchased out now from Curse as they scramble to save the base.
Yeah, one inhibitor down, and still a lot of Baron time left for TSM. They have about a minute and a half. They're deciding to go back and shop just because they're all sitting on generous amounts of gold. There's about 10,000 unspent gold on TSM right now. So they're actually doing that before they even built up their item advantages. There we go. Death cap completed for the Burger King.
A Wild Turtle. You know, you'd get damage out of the Last Whisper, but it looks like he just goes straight into an Infinity Edge.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's not that much armor on the majority of the Curse team. Isle Dominant went for a bit of a Glass Cannon Wukong. The only guy he'd really have to worry about is Quas, and there's a chance he might try and ignore him. Definitely an aggressive build thus far by Wild Turtle. Oh, look out, buddy.
Oh, he tried to get over the wall. He had to flash it. Dominate put himself right on that Vault Breaker. Great placement, but that Baron buff is still ticking, and they're in a bad
they're
spot.
going to turn this one around if he can get in range for a Vault Breaker.
Oh, he does! It's going to be St. Vicious. They'll take what they can get, and it looks like they're going to eat it up immediately. Cake can have it too. Dominate's going to be going down in this one. They're going to find some more. No red buffs. Ooh. It's not going to be in range for anybody to take this one down. Quas is going to be burning himself out of here. Maybe. He does have the Dragons to set coming in. It looks like they get the blade on to Nidalee. They're safe.
And instead of taking the Dragon that's going to be up in a second, TSM are using the 2 downed members of Curse to continue this push. They have a minion wave right there, and they're going to try and make this 1-2 inhibitors. TSM is not wasting a second.
There's a heck of a minion wave coming down from that top side too, so they can keep going and play around in the base if they want. They're going to take the inhibitor, see what kind of they can do. They have 9 seconds without Dominate, and they don't have to be too afraid.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want right now. They'll take the open door. They've just smashed through in the middle of the base. There's a lot of jungle if they want to take it. They can rotate to the bottom turrets, and that's actually what they're doing right now.
You can see Xpecial, just how much money that team has. He's already starting to build into the Randuins, and Saint still sitting on that Talisman of Ascension. The Sight Stone, everybody on Curse is so far behind from TSM's first engagement. That teleport from Dyrus down to the Dragon has really swayed this game, and TSM has not let go of that stranglehold since.
And it's one of the nice things about doing the Face of the Mountain on Leona. She ends up becoming immensely tanky in her own right. She's got 159 armor to sit with 2.6 thousand health. That's before she turns on her Eclipse, which because of all the armor he's got, gives him 85 extra armor. They're just not letting up right now.
There's a fast Mundo coming in. Dyrus is ready to participate in the fight. He's done his taxes. He's back from business day. It looks like they're going to try to set out some cupcakes here. This will only help him out so much. Not going to get engaged on too much, so they're only going to look good.
There's just too many tanks on TSM right now. Xpecial has as much gold this game as Quas does.
Oh my gosh.
That was a spear as well.
Coming and going for the fight. Odd1 goes for the Vault Breaker to the Assault Battery. Again on a St. Vicious. The box goes down, but everybody's coloring outside the lines on this one. Dominate's going down to the fight now. Comp is the focus. The fadeaway calling. Ace in the hole. They're going to follow him to the fountain, but he finds Solace there on the back. Oh my God!
Quadra
kill coming in for Bjergsen. The Nexus turrets will fall behind the 30-minute clock. 16-6. Team SoloMid drops out Curse for 2 times in a row.
Quadra kill just came out of nowhere at the end of it. TSM just surged right into Curse's base and destroyed them. That winning streak continues for TSM, and they do not seem to be slowing down.
I'm still catching my breath from that Lily spear.
Well, you're talking for a while.
Oh man, what an awesome throw all game. Bjergsen showing that he can still carry just as hard as any, even from the poke champ of Nidalee.
Yeah, it was a team effort that time by TSM. You don't see often in the LCS anymore the crowd is really behind TSM. Teams successfully turtling that much in the early game to explode into a sub 30-minute victory.